Hello moms. So in this video we are going to look at how to cultivate or develop positivity effortlessly in your child. Before talking about positivity, I would want to make you understand that the child at 9 years of age develops prefrontal cortex. It's a portion in the frontal lobe that develops in the child at the age of 9 years. And this prefrontal cortex is very, very important because this is where all the conscious memory is stored, and this is what we use for executing functions. So even if the child has amazing knowledge in neocortex, if his prefrontal cortex is badly developed, in a sense it's filled with negativity, then even neocortex knowledge wouldn't be useful, because this will prevent the people to go closer to the child. So to developing the prefrontal cortex is very, very important, and a lot of positivity must be inculcated. The prefrontal cortex makes up to over 10% of the volume of the brain, and thus is involved in many functions. We will not talk about all those functions, we will just talk about executive function. There is one category of cognition, however, that the prefrontal cortex is probably best known for, and that is executive function. So today we are just going to talk about that. So let's dive in. Setting right thought, right intentions will result in right cognition, or to say right execution. Okay, moms, let's dive into 7 concepts. The first concept is spilled milk concept. We all might have heard about this proverb that crying over spilled milk is useless. So normally what happens when a child does a mistake, breaks a toy, breaks something, or does something that you don't approve of? What does we generally do? Can you all please comment what generally we do? I'm sure 10% or probably more than that might believe in this concept that crying over spilled milk is no use, and we must learn from our mistakes and let go of the mistake. But there are still few people who abuse the child, punish the child for the mistake, whether intentionally or unintentionally the child has done. It is how you treat it post that decides whether the child will develop positivity or negativity within himself or herself. So parents, if something has happened that you don't approve of, do not punish the child, but together show him or her that you are in the team together, and that you will solve whatever it is. What's next should be the mantra, and you must teach your child that from mistakes we must learn, and we must let go of the mistake. We should not feel guilty or be with that mistake and feel guilty. We must let it go. Second concept to develop positivity in child is, or in you, is tiny speck concept. So what do I mean by tiny speck? You might have heard about people talking about there's a big galaxy, and within that galaxy there is a universe, and within the universe there is a solar system, and within that solar system there is a planet Earth, and within that planet Earth there is a continent, and within that continent there is a country, and within that country there is a city, and within that city there is a house, and that in that small house you live as a tiny speck. So when you are such a tiny speck, how can your problems or your issues can be bigger than you? So this concept you have to make understand. First of all, you must understand this concept, and then you must teach your child about the same. So there's a small exercise which I will share after this video. You can, whenever you are stressed or your child is stressed, you can play that video for your child so that they can understand this concept more better. So idea here is to, in the face of adversity or in the face of something very gloomy, you have to remind yourself of this tiny speck concept, to develop positivity, to come out of that gloominess, to come out of that emotional scar, to come out of that problem and try to find solutions. Instead of crying, you try to come out of the problem and try to find a solution for yourself. So this way, it deeply develops a positive positivity, and it develops, to say, grit, perseverance, self-efficacy in child, and it will be helpful lifelong. The third concept is nothing is permanent concept. In this world, nothing is permanent. You all must be aware of that. Whether it is happiness, sadness, or anything here in this world, nothing is permanent. Whatever was there 10 years ago is not there today, and whatever is here today may not be available. It is a very broad concept. I mean, we can talk about it every single thing, even in our atoms, the cells, they are not the same. It is all changing, and nothing remains permanent. So again, it comes to the first concept. There is no point crying over the spilt milk. So if we are happy, we don't care about all this. We are naturally positive. But all these things are required when you feel sad, when things don't happen the way you want it to happen, and then you feel sad or you feel bad. These concepts apply at that time. If you're happy, if things are going around you as smooth as possible and everything is happening according to your wish, then you don't need all these concepts. But these concepts are required when you are unhappy, your child is unhappy. Probably your child wanted to get selected for some program and he or she didn't get selected. He might be gloomy. How to motivate your child at that time? Whatever you teach your child, the way you treat your child and teach, that is what they learn, and that is how they become who they become. So this prefrontal cortex is very, very important. The development of this prefrontal cortex in the right way is very, very important. So let's go to the next concept, that is acknowledge emotion as is concept. It is like nowadays everywhere people are talking about spreading, you know, talking about positive affirmations, being positive, being happy. Is it possible that you are very sad and very gloomy, and then you think, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy? It doesn't work that way. To come out of that gloomy situation, you really have to understand the situation. And so parents, how to be aware of the emotions. So you can do this exercise for yourself. The more and more you are aware of your own emotions, you will be able to teach better to your child how to be aware of his or her emotions. First thing you have to do is notice and name your emotions. Start by just noticing different emotions as you feel them. Name them to yourself. For example, you might say, I feel proud when a class presentation goes well. I feel disappointed at not doing well on a test. Or I feel friendly when sitting with a group at lunch. So you can name your emotions. And you should be aware of what emotion you're going through. Track one emotion each day. These are all exercises, small exercises that you need to do. You need to cultivate within you, and you also you ask your child to do the same. Pick a familiar emotion like joy and track it throughout the day. Notice how often you feel it and when. Whenever that emotion shows up, you can simply make a mental note to yourself or jot it down in a journal. Notice where you are, who you are with, and what you are doing when that emotion is present. Note whether the emotion is mild, medium, or strong, and if it has different intensities at different times. So all this you can make note of it. The third thing you can do is build your emotional vocabulary. How many emotions can you name? Try going through the alphabet and thinking of one emotion for each letter. Or you can be very creative as well. I'm just giving you an example. Think of related emotions that vary in intensity. For example, you might be irritated, annoyed, mad, angry, irate, or fuming. See how many of these emotion families you can come up with. Again, this is just an example. You can bundle up your own set of names and emotions. Because for me and for you, how we perceive each word could be different. So why we ask everyone, why we are asking to be aware of the emotions is trying to be happy all the time alienates us from our emotions, which simply isn't healthy. In fact, recent psychological research indicates that emotional avoidance is one of the main causes of many psychological issues. So with this, we have come to the end of fourth concept. Now we'll move on to the fifth concept, that is volunteering concept. Do you realize that people who volunteer have been found to have higher self-esteem and overall well-being than those who don't? People who engage in kind acts become happier over time. There you go. If you make yourself and your child do volunteering without expecting anything, without any returns, in any form, then you see the magic happening around you and with your child. So naturally the child will be positive. Now let's move on to the sixth concept. That is, your child is growing. Your child's cognition, social development, physical development, emotional development, everything is in a developing stage, right? So the child looks at the world in so many different ways. So it's possible the child comes up with awe moments in a day. It could be very simple, like recognizing and appreciating small moments of happiness and beauty, like beautiful sunset, sounds of birds, ants walking. A child could find excitement in anything, something new and exciting discovered by your child. Record those moments, document those moments. You can be as creative as possible, how you want to do recordings of those moments, how you want to capture those moments. It's up to you. But capturing those moments are very, very essential. You can play them back, and it itself will create a different aura. With this, we come to the last, seventh concept, that is developing skills and trying new activities. So, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video session, that the prefrontal cortex develops at the age of 9 years. Yeah, if you go to the Google, they will give you many variations of ages. Some will say it starts at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So according to us, it starts at 9. The development starts at 9. So developing skills is very, very essential. To achieve all that we think, it's basically like to think, to plan, to reason, to manage our emotions, to make decisions, to problem solve. All these major feats are done through frontal lobe. High level thinking skills that so often we take for granted. All these are done through frontal lobe. So this all stem from the brain power of our frontal lobe. The human brain develops from back to front. So the prefrontal cortex develops lastly. This part of the brain manages processes such as reasoning, logic, problem solving, planning, memory, focus and attention, developing and carrying out goals, stopping your impulses, developing your personality. So now do you understand why we are talking about ages 9 to 12? This is the right time. This is the right time to develop the skill. This is the right time to find out your child's potential and develop that particular skill. And also to develop the frontal cortex in a right way, so that the child becomes a humble, positive, beautiful human being. So I would, as a end note, I would like to tell you how you can successfully develop your child's prefrontal cortex. First and foremost thing is model healthy emotional intelligence. That whatever you show up, the child learns that. You may scream at the top of your voice, make your bed as soon as you get up in the morning. But if you don't do the same, it's 0% chances that the child will listen to you. So you start to make bed first, and then you say, then probably your child will listen. Patience in their moments of struggle. Please understand your child. The child is going through so much of changes, so much of development. They themselves are poor thing going through struggle. You have to understand them and show patience. Practice empathy. And do not take their behavioral issues personally. If you understand them, you will not have any problem with their behavioral issues, because You have to understand that they are going through something that they are not aware of. They themselves are dealing with their changes. And these behavior issues, you look at them as opportunities to develop the child. Be there for your child during these moments. Just be there. The child who feels they have strong safety net develops emotional intelligence easier. Consider that all of your interactions with others are reflective, driven by your goals and values, or reactive, driven by your feelings right now. So if you consider these two, then you automatically, your behavior or reaction or reflectiveness, it all depends. If you consider, try to control your upsetness, and when a child is acting like a child especially in trying times, repeat to yourself, his frontal cortex is underdeveloped. So this might help you. Okay, and then there is self-regulations. As I mentioned earlier in my videos, have your charts, timetables, schedules, weekly family time. Do so much for them that it will pay you definitely. I could continue, but my objective is not to stress you out. Awareness of your child's developmental stages and making a conscious effort to stay in control of your emotions positively affect your child's development. And this was said by Dr. that our number one responsibility as parents is to pay attention to our emotions, but not to act on them. With this, I end up this video. I hope it was useful. Please leave your comments below.